Good afternoon, Speed Gaming Live, or evening, or morning. I don't know where you are and what time it is for you. Regardless, we're all here for one thing, and that is the Final Fantasy Mystic Quest Tournament finals, the grand finals here between Hataks and farfelu. Hataks on our right side, farfelu on our left, if you need help on that one. Both these runners very equally skilled, as Potato mentioned pre-game to me, exactly the same record coming in. So we know that regardless of what happens, it's going to be a very entertaining and fun race to watch. Potato, how are you today?
I am doing excellent. Very excited to see, the game one of at least two between these runners in the finals for this tournament. The whole tournament has been fantastic. Each runner only dropping one game to an opponent along their way here to the finals after the group stage began. So very excited to see sort of who comes out ahead in game one and sort of what the seeds are going to throw at our runners.
Like to also throw a special thanks out to Wild Ham for being our tracker today, and Diesel Pilot for getting our setup done here nice and quick for us. And for anybody who's not familiar with this randomizer, we'll try to explain as we go. There's a lot of things different than vanilla Mystic Quest, and that first thing we want to point out is our partner lock. Normally you have 4 partners to choose from. In this randomizer, the runners will only have 2. This seed will be Tristram and Ruben. Not really what you want to see total, because you love to see Phoebe no matter what, but they will have to kind of determine and route their way through based on their partners and the quests for the partners, because in the randomizer, the only way to level your partner is through quests. And let's go over these quests real quick.
Certainly. For Tristram tonight, the companion we don't have yet, his quests are going to be clear 5 battlefields, visit the summit of Volcano, defeat the snow crab, and defeat a total of 6 mini-bosses.
And over on Ruben's side, we've got clear the mined battlefield, save 1 crystal, which could be anything from Flamerus to Pazuzu. Visit the upper right ledge on Mount Gale, which is kind of just like a random location that they've got to have the Dragon Claw for, and collect 35 sky fragments, which leads us right into the other main difference you'll notice here. Instead of having the sky coin available, they will have the sky coin broken up into 40 different shards, and to complete the game, they will need to collect 24 of them to complete the coin. Speaking of coins, farfelu on the left side, grabbing the river coin from the Fireberg store here. So instant progression early on.
Definitely. And speaking of that Dragon Claw needed, we already saw that for sale in Aquaria, and we see the mine battlefield right here. So easy access to getting Ruben some quests potentially very quickly if these enemies will at least play along and let them get the quest completed over here.
Yeah, the mine battlefield is not known as a very nice one. We see farfelu's just kind of, I think he's just going to be skipping it for now, which probably the right choice. But, having a level on Ruben is really nice. We'll see if it pays off for Hataks or if he sticks with it.
Lots of choices. So they only had the 1 money battle tile in the starting area, and they had to buy the river coin to get out. So that left them, I believe, with not enough money to afford that Dragon Claw, which would be an upgrade in a lot of ways as far as what you can access on the map, as well as just Benjamin's effectiveness in combat. So already presenting the runners with some potentially difficult choices to make right out of the gate.
And as we see on Hataks side, he does make it through that mine battlefield. And every quest for the partner will jump them up a number of levels. Ruben going from level 7 to 15. He will also gain the Blizzard spell, which not going to be helpful. But if they need emergency AOE, Hataks at least have something.
Yeah, without a partner with any sort of sweeper abilities early, maybe we will actually get to see, some Blizzard cast.
See relatively useless steel shield from the vendor in Windia. Both runners will probably opt to skip that in lieu of more seeds. Seeds being the item that will actually regenerate your magic spells in this game. And then in terms of battlefields, but vanilla, all the battlefields look the same. In this randomizer, with them being shuffled, they're color-coded. So on farfelu's side here, entering a blue battlefield indicates that the reward for clearing this will be a key item. Black battlefields will reward extra experience, and green ones will award money. So the one they did at the very beginning was a money tile, which is how they were able to get so much for that river coin right off the bat.
Definitely, we see that blue battle tile in particular is some windy level enemies, so maybe going to be something the runners don't get right away. You know, those are going to be end game enemies, even with the script shuffle, you know, potentially making them not ruin the party right away. They're still going to have a whole bunch of HP, and typically they're just more time than is worth a lot of time for runners.
We see farfelu found the volcano. One of the Tristram's quests is to visit the summit, which generally is relatively safe, but he opts not to do that. So I wonder if he's trying to fade Tristram as much as possible, which would be an interesting decision, because in the randomizer, Tristram, for balancing reason, gets the exit spell at level 23. So 2 quests done, and then you've got arguably the most powerful spell in the randomizer.
Definitely, maybe just not worrying about it until the Sand Temple presents itself. He doesn't actually have access to Tristram yet, so maybe willing to make that return trip. We do see, it looks like Hataks spending a little extra time in the volcano. I wonder if he is going to go ahead and preemptively do it or just leave as well. It looks like he's making the decision to leave. So both runners sort of giving up on potentially grabbing a Tristram who's already got some quests under his belt later on down the road.
I'd like to point out some big brain play that Hataks is making right here. If we noticed, he went into the status menu for a brief second. He was checking the amount of experience he has possibly. There's a weird glitch even in vanilla where if you complete a battlefield and then the experience you get from the enemies and the experience you get from the battlefield would level you up, then you get 2 levels. Maybe he wasn't doing that. Maybe he was checking gold, but I thought that is something that some high-level runners do. They kind of set themselves up for a double level for free.
He maybe was trying to aim for that and just didn't quite get to the XP totals. He may also, though, it looks like, be looking for a source of some income, because farfelu's gone back and picked up that Dragon Claw. And the runners, although they have a number of locations available to them, don't actually have a lot they can complete. A number of these locations require an item or 2 more than they have, with the exception of, you know, you could fight Medusa here in the volcano. You could also, now with that Dragon Claw, go try to take on Dullahan, which actually is kind of a scary proposition at this early in the game.
Yeah, we have also seen the mine, so Jin technically on the table as well, none of which the runners want to do at this point. They're nowhere near ready. So hopefully there's another key item that pops its head up here in a second.
I think we might actually be limited to a boss at this point already in the seed. Going over it.
Hataks running Medusa, so maybe making that same determination quickly, a lot quicker than I did. Opting for Medusa at level 4, but at least he's got Ruben at 15, who's not a slouch at least.
Definitely, I mean, without taking on a few more battle tiles, you know, we do have that blue battlefield, so that could be the answer, although those enemies are also potentially just as difficult as a mini-boss at this point. But yeah, Hataks reading the seed so far, realizing that his options are limited. You know, it's a boss or a very mean tile, so willing to give it a shot while he's here.
Yeah, Hataks Ruben taking a critical hit from Medusa for over 800, so it doesn't matter if he's full health. One thing you may have noticed from either side, the enemies have random attacks, and the attack pool is split between the entire game with the exception of Dark King. So you can't get Dark King attacks on normal enemies, but the easiest enemy in the game could have one of the most powerful attacks in the game. So, again, like Jin, for example, on farfelu, could roll all completely benign attacks, and he could have a super easy time. Or, you know, these skeletons roll Sky Attack, and there's no way to get past it. So just a fun little thing we have to kind of deal with as runners, and it's different every seed, and it keeps things exciting.
Definitely, as our tracker and the developer of the randomizer pointing out, it's a fairly mean start, and the choices are definitely very, you know, challenging for the runners at this point. It's either one of these mini bosses or that blue battle tile, it looks like, and our options are fairly limited. You know, we've got a quest for Ruben under our belt, but we can't really push him any further. Although actually with that Dragon Claw on farfelu's side, he could go over onto Mount Gale and get Ruben another level before pushing any further if he wanted to, and that may just be something that the runners want to do, depending on how mean these bosses keep being.
Yeah, at this stage you're looking at your options, and like you said, 3 mini bosses or that blue battle tile, which is arguably more difficult. I would be personally gunning for another level here, because I mean, none of these guys are nice to fight. But it looks
Right.
like Hataks maybe making that same determination, going back for that Dragon Claw now that he's got the money.
Right. I definitely think regardless of what your plan is going forward, you're going to want that. It's more offense on Benjamin at the very least. You know, potential statuses out on enemies is always nice, and just being able to do a little more damage than that starter sword is going to be able to do. Not that Benjamin is, you know, going to be contributing an awful lot to these fights, but every little bit could matter. We see Jin, you know, right now, a lot of sleep, not a lot of damage, so this could be a doable fight if somebody wakes up.
I'd also like to point out we saw Ruben auto into a Blizzard on Jin, which did actually 400 damage, so we get to see the little Happy Snowman at least one time this race.
That's fantastic.
23 seeds, so he is... Oh yeah, we've seen all 3 shops, so he's ready to commit to not buying... I guess it was just a Steel Shield, so that makes sense. But affording 23 seeds, so he'll be set for the rest of the run. A question in chat. When you get a key item in this or a shard, the companion's weapon will change momentarily to show what the last item was, and then we'll switch back once like an inventory change happens.
Yes, no way to currently change sort of what your companions have equipped. There are some spell randomization options so that they do have different abilities in that regard, but yeah, the weapons they have still static to vanilla.
Looks like you kind of spoken into existence 10 minutes ago here, Potato. Hataks does decide to go up to that little ledge on Mount Gale. farfelu is making his way through Jin. It's just kind of a slog because of that double sleep nonstop. Ugh, come on, Ruben, wake up.
Yeah, as long as he can, you know, keep the damage going and both party members up. Oh, and there we go. He's already through. Excellent. First mini boss of the potential required mini bosses down. We'll see what Ruben gives.
Ooh.
Well,
X isn't worthless, but it's not useful right now.
Did we see a live forest yet? If a live forest is on the table, that does at least open up one more check for the runners that could be free in some sort of progression. But yeah,
it opens up all of tree.
Also, yeah, 2 checks really. You could go all the way and fight Ghidra, which is perhaps the one boss you will see the least on these flags, at least.
farfelu contemplating their decisions here. See if he remembers Mount Gale and the ledge. It looks like that is the case. So we'll see him also go get level 23 Ruben. The one main change in spells for Ruben is he does get white at level 34. So one more quest and these runners will have, you know, an actual powerful AoE until they decide to either get rid of him or, you know, I guess the rest of the game.
Certainly, if only there was a completable crystal dungeon in this opening area, you would be able to push Ruben to white, and that would give you significantly more power, enabling you to sort of push through probably any of these trouble spots, most certainly a lot easier than you're going to be able to do at this point.
Yeah, any kind of white flare or meteor makes you know, most battlefields kind of a non-factor. So not having like an AoE bomb, like a mega grenades or a spell this early is, well, it's 12 minutes and we're still kind of stuck. So that's kind of just shows you exactly how important those things can be, and at least in a fast seed.
Right? Yeah. The fastest seeds I've seen generally are the ones, that give you that sort of power early, and we're seeing right here sort of what happens when you don't have a lot of power or options presented to you early. It's just a lot of sort of, they've got to guess which boss is going to have what they need. There is some logic behind it, because I don't believe actually Dullahan, because what they're looking for right now is really, I mean, the Sun Coin is on the table, but the Sand Coin would also give them significant progress. And we know that that coin will not be behind Dullahan or Hydra. It could be behind the Medusa that we have not seen defeated yet, but we do see them now both going, I believe, to this battle tile to try to take on these enemies rather than another boss and see what's available.
Yeah, farfelu deciding the Jin fight was enough for now. Hataks trying to avoid the boss fights at all costs, but maybe now making the decision to head into Jin, it looks like. Oh, psych. Never mind, he's going to keep trying that battlefield, and unfortunately, but they both have the 3 ooze formation. One of 2 enemies in the game, normal enemies, that reflect magic, which I guess in this instance doesn't really matter to these guys. But these are not fun enemies to fight regardless.
Yeah, depending on the shuffle, these may be the better formation option out of what you're in the tile, since they aren't going to be, you're not at risk of your main damage source being reflected from them at least. But it does look like they have some paralysis and poison, both of which are going to do some work.
It looks like Hataks. Oh, I spoke too soon.
Ruben.
Just one hit, and he's through.
Making a smart decision to bring up another party member, for the targeting and potential damage. I think definitely the right call rather than risk another miss and then a potential wipe there.
Oh my!
Oh.
The steel
All
helm.
worth it. The most value they could have possibly gotten out of defeating that tile. We see the look on Hatak's face right there. Not what the runners wanted. The weakest helmet in the game. It is, to be fair, at this point in the seed, it is ever so slightly an upgrade to what they are rocking currently, but it does not answer the question. So at this point, it looks like we're looking at Medusa for some guaranteed progression, almost certainly, and then either Dullahan or Hydra still could have any number of things that these runners could want or need to get through this seed.
Yeah, just for numbers' sake, the steel helm granting Hataks 4 defense. So his disappointment is very valid. farfelu, I'm sure we'll see the exact same disappointment on his face if he can make it through this fight. It's the smart play. It's not fun, obviously, but a battle towel with one encounter just sounds better in every circumstance, instead of fighting Medusa or Jin or anything like that. So I don't blame these runners for struggling through these fights. Just unfortunately, we're not rewarded this time around.
Certainly, especially, considering that even with a few tries, it's certainly going to be quicker than a few tries against the boss. It's like 3 of the boss companion enemies, rather than a boss in there as well. So at the very least, the HP totals significantly lower to get through this battle tile if you can manage to get some damage to stick and not get wrecked by the various statuses and abilities that they shuffle into.
I would like to point out on the Hatak side, opting to do the Jin fight after Ruben reaches 23, kind of making a big difference. That fight went significantly faster with that slightly leveled up Ruben. So nice to see there. He gets his axe, and now just to point out, on the bottom right of Hatak's screen, we see that little shard. He's got 5 shards. The most recent update Wild Ham pushed out to the randomizer is being able to show on screen how many shards you have when you pick one up. So not only great for tracking, but great for commentary, great for viewers. Just thumbs up to Wild Ham on that one. So thank you very much.
Yeah, a wonderful addition. It makes everyone involved's life a little bit easier, and really is just one of those excellent quality of life improvements that the randomizer has that are just showing, why it's so fun and why the community keeps growing. And we do see a live forest here, so we do have a freebie back in the starting area. Hopefully, for the runner's sake, that's some progression. I'm sure they're hoping at least, but it does, like you said earlier, also put Gidra on the table, which is excellent.
Yeah, cross your fingers that this chest gives the sand coin, please, everybody. We don't want to see the runners struggle through Hydra or Gidra or anybody like that. No.
Lizard, yes. All right, so we're still looking at Medusa, most likely for some sort of, bomb progression, which would allow them to go into Wintry Cave and get something done. There's a few options out there depending on what's gated, but the sand coin definitely would have presented them the most additional choices.
See questions about the Dragon Claw in chat. Somebody mentioned, yeah, it does, when you use it as a weapon, it does try to inflict pretty much every status effect on an enemy, and it all just depends on what the enemy is resistant to. And then the additional magic buff, it gives you 5 magic points when it is equipped. So it's actually not terribly useful in terms of the randomizer. Doing the math, extra 5 magic into endgame gives you like 30 damage points. In vanilla speedruns, it makes a huge difference for some fights, but this isn't really, I've calculated it out recently, not really worth worrying about, but it's still cool to know regardless. And the same thing with the swords, the Knight Sword and the Excalibur give you +5 speed points, so that actually does make a difference more often than not, or more often than the Claw does. So little things like that, most runners do know once they've become acclimated to the randomizer and will try to utilize when possible.
Definitely, if using that claw when they're trying to get the damage, even though it's not the biggest deal if you end up with a wipe and reset without switching back and forth or just happen to be on the wrong one. But that sword, as you said, turn order being a very important aspect to a number of the boss fights, because you're usually in a situation where one partner is triaging and another person is doing damage, or at least getting into a cycle of being able to do that every other turn, so that you can push damage. And having a known turn order, which the sword can sort of help with, will enable that a lot of times.
Yeah, Benjamin is by far the slowest character of all 5 that are in the game, and any boost he gets to speed is a welcome addition. And then back to the race, we do see both runners opting for Medusa, kind of the lesser of 3 evils of what's available to them. Right call in my opinion. Hopefully it's got to be the sand coin, right?
Well, a sand coin or a bomb, any sort of immediate progression with what they have available. It could even be something as silly as the multi-key or the wake water with Spencer's Place could also be on the table. Any sort of additional checks is what this is going to give at this point. They know logically, based on the most recent update, that it's not going to be behind any of the other bosses, I believe, or at least wouldn't be required to be behind any of the other bosses, since those are all from the windier region.
We are seeing some mean Medusa crits again. I think it was Hataks who came here earlier and opted to leave, but Hataks does make it through. farfelu does take that wipe to it, unfortunately, but the sand coin behind Medusa. Great news. That means it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Definitely, the runners have a multitude of options now. One immediate free check and focus tower, as well as a whole new region of the world to explore. Potentially, more dungeons over there. The towns, we've seen all but Foresta, so we're not going to have the greatest quick travel access potentially throughout this seed, but the runners definitely a sigh of relief to have access to some more checks that aren't those mean bosses.
Yeah, 20 minutes in one, 2 regions available is kind of a long time in these seeds. So yeah, very happy to see that. Hopefully we see Sand Temple soon. I want to see what these runners do in terms of Tristram, because so far, I believe both of them have skipped the summit of Volcano. They probably have 5 battlefields, so we'll see Tristram at level 15 if they decide to pick him up. But he does get exit at level 23, which, as mentioned earlier, is very, very, very good in the randomizer. So, again, just want to see what happens.
That ice pyramid location is giving me some flashbacks, I'm not going to lie. So we see ice pyramid there locked behind Wakewater. So that's very interesting, because that's going to be something they potentially don't have access to for a while, and gates a number of checks. But we do see False Basin here right away, certainly well equipped to take that on. But yeah, as you spoke to earlier, not having gotten that quest on the volcano for Tristram could be an interesting point for both runners. They're not going to have the ability to sort of pick up Tristram and utilize that exit right away without doing something extra, and a lot of times that can shave a multitude of minutes off of your seed.
Yeah, being able to leave a dungeon from any location and just be out is huge in this. And in addition, Wild Ham programmed a way for exit to be used in the overworld and warp you back to the first tile in the game in the Foresta region. So just a quick warp if you need to go back there. Multitude of uses. farfelu opting to still fade the summit. Again, if they're not going to pick up Tristram, it's not a big deal, but having that immediately available would be awfully nice.
Certainly, it's something I think I would have done, but they're probably looking at their quest and just deciding that they're going to stick with Ruben for as long as they can right now, and certainly that's a decision to be made. There are really no wrong ones as far as that goes, just different ones from what your opponent may do. But in this case, they're both in lockstep in that regard, it feels like. So neither one going to have an advantage over the other potentially from making that decision, which is always interesting.
Very true. I will say this as a jab to both of us, Potato. They are both in the tournament. We are not, so we can't really criticize their decisions.
Right? Yeah, they've shown over a multitude of races, many times that these decisions, there's so many decisions that are presented to the runners due to the way the randomizer works, and being able to make those decisions long term and on the fly, is what these runners are constantly showing off. And right now they are in the finals, facing off to take that title. So clearly they have made some good choices along the way.
Oh, and something we just completely glazed over because Hataks beat the crab in 2 turns. Tristram's one of Tristram's quests is defeating snow crabs, so all of a sudden they do have exit as soon as Tristram's available. So fading that volcano summit, while it didn't save a ton of time, technically saved some time.
Certainly, and maybe that was on their mind. Maybe they realized that the snow crab is likely going to be somewhere very easy and accessible, and the crab is generally not a boss that's going to roadblock you in a siege for very long. Although someone was kind enough to share one recently where crab was very, very rude and pretty much prevented the siege from being completed. So that was fantastic. But I'm sure that's not what the runners were sort of hoping for, considering that crab would maybe get them that exit. Yeah, moving on. They still, we still haven't seen Tristram. So I wonder if he's going to be gated behind that Windia region and needing the Sun Coin to get him.
Hataks completed one of those blue battlefields in the Aquaria region, was rewarded with the noble armor. So 12 defense, given some water and poison resistance. Nice to have, not necessary. But he does dive Pazuzu's tower, probably just going to be doing the free checks now that since he has the Dragon Claw, the Vanilla Flare and Excalibur chests. And then also has an axe, so can lock Pazuzu down on floor 1, which is the best floor for the randomizer in terms of coming back and being able to fight him immediately. So we'll see what the tower rewards us with, and hope we don't have to come back ever again.
Right, he can get a few shards along the way, not potentially all of them because of the bombs being necessary, but yeah, it's a wonderful thing to be able to lock Pazuzu in place on floor 1 to enable a quick return.
Ooh.
Oh, speaking of bombs, wow, all right, that enables quite a few things for Farfelu now. Bombs, access to a number of dungeons required in some form to get to many, many places.
Yeah, unless we see Hataks find bombs elsewhere or also complete that battlefield, we'll probably see some deviation here, since Pazuzu's tower not necessarily the easiest checks to make in terms of now that you've got bombs, you can do Bone Dungeon, you can do Winter Cave. There's so much on the table, as you mentioned, that is just technically easier. So it will be nice to see if Farfelu decides to go elsewhere while Hataks grabbing the Sun Coin from tower. So may also
If
be
he does, yeah.
weird.
If he does decide to go elsewhere, the divergence now, even more so. That Sun Coin, another whole region available to the runners, and the Gemini Crest, the other freebie here. So, but yeah, Bone Dungeon likely going to be something I would expect Farfelu at least to go there early. It's a very dense location, certainly more so than Pazuzu's Tower with only 2 boxes, and 3 if you decide you want to take on, Pazuzu himself. So.
Yeah, Bone Dungeon, but 4 checks, 5 if you count Tristram if he's in your party. And tons of shards. It's a great spot. We'll probably see him do that next. It's definitely what I would do. Let's see. Yep, it's the right call. It's a great call, and it could be a big difference if Hataks decides to fade that blue tile, which he does. He decides to fade the tile. Okay.
Pulling him away, another immediate freebie down here, as well as, again, a whole new region. Still maybe looking for that Tristram now, since if he didn't see the Sand Temple in the previous area and it's now behind Wakewater, he knows that over here somewhere is going to be Tristram with exit, and that would allow him rapid travel around the map at this point.
Yeah, that's true. Not having bombs is bad, but there's always the potential for other bombs on this side, and then there's Sand Temple. So he's got the option to take Tristram and immediately have exit, which would save him tons of time over Farfelu if he doesn't find exit, fast enough.
Right, you never know when exit's gonna show up for Benjamin itself, and that's another point. A lot of times, Tristram only being useful until that spell presents itself in the seed for your main character, and then you just leave Tristram off to the wayside, unfortunately. But yeah, Hataks got a lot more options on the table now. Finding Libra Temple can also push Phoebe back to Wintry Cave, although a place he can't complete right now without those bombs. So very interesting.
Something I'd like to point out with Hataks moving Phoebe forward there, in terms of the quests, the checks you can do for your partners. If the partner is obtainable to the runners, the runners have to take that partner with them to do their checks. So the Tristram check I mentioned in Bone Dungeon, you have to have Tristram in your party, or else you won't be able to get that key item check. Phoebe, not one of our options tonight, so she can just go to Wintry Cave and she'll be waiting there for Hataks and give him a key item when he goes back there.
A wonderful thing, but something you need to keep in mind when you're trying to get those objectives taken care of. You need Ruben in the mine, and you need Tristram in Bone Dungeon, and that could throw your game plan sort of in the mix. You know, if you have to let go of a strong companion for a while, and maybe not be able to pick them up right away, you know, you've got to consider when you're going to route that in, and it's definitely something these runners, I'm sure, have thought about sort of how they're going to approach as they see each new location on the map.
Hataks rewarded with a Night Sword for beating that Minotaur does give him that speed boost, so that's not technically useless. Farfelu, though, does get Ruben to level 34 with that crystal. And Venus Key Forest problems, the chest on the right there being what is considered a zonk, which means it's the one singular key item that's removed for the shard hunt purposes. But, you know, level 34 Ruben now gives Farfelu a distinct advantage here in terms of damage and AoE.
Certainly, and it might come down to who has more damage versus who has more mobility over the course of the seed at this point. With we see Hataks, you know, going back in, probably going to get that Tristram. You know, he could return to Bone Dungeon, but there's a lot he could do right now. He's got exit on the table, so we could see him warp right back to the starting area and sort of start over clearing things he has access to. Maybe he's going to go back and try to take on some battle tiles. We know that's definitely an answer right now to get him some bombs and some immediate more progress. So very interested to see what he's going to decide.
Well, kind of ironic here that battlefield to the right of Sand Temple did hold the exit spell for Benjamin. So now Hataks with double exit, which isn't useful really in any circumstance here, the rando, but does mean he can get rid of Tristram immediately after pushing him to Fireberg if he chooses to do so.
That's fantastic and hilarious all at once. You know, all that work, all the discussion, and it rendered immediately pointless by and we see Ruben, and we see Hataks with the, you know, very congratulatory sort of feeling. You know, Tristram rewarding sort of with potentially letting him avoid a battle tile on the overworld. Although, you know, a lot of times if you're looking for those last things in the seed, the battle tiles are where runners are going to go first. But definitely something that can equalize itself out fairly easily.
Does in fact save Hataks a bunch of time though. To finish Bone Dungeon, he would have to go back to that battlefield at some point, get those bombs or find mega grenades, then come back. So the fact that Tristram gives vanilla bombs, not only hilarious, but allows him to just push Bone Dungeon all the way through, since it is going to be just a breeze.
Certainly, one-stop shop. You love to see it. You being able to stop any dungeon and not have to return, especially in these flags, which happens a lot, you know, is something the runners are looking to do. In Bone Dungeon, you know, so dense, as we said earlier, you love to be able to come in here with the Tristram, have the bombs. I hope he, you know, with the exit spell available to him, I hope he remembers that he did not open the chest, the first chest that's opened by bombs, which I believe was the Aegis Shield, which Farfelu has. But otherwise, yeah, gonna be, you know, rewarded with that Venus Key, rewarded with another level on his Ruben, and just some general progress, you know, clearing stuff out and knowing what his options are.
Yeah, and if Hataks thinks this through the way I am, after I beat Flamers, I exit, hopefully remember that chest like you mentioned, which Aegis Shield, granting petrification and paralysis resistance, so pretty important. But then I also use exit in the overworld, getting back to Foresta, which is where the Fireberg city is, which gives you the last Tristram check and allows you to switch right back to Ruben, who has white already after Flamers. So could have set himself up pretty nicely here.
Definitely, that would be, you know, an excellent sequence of events to sort of reset yourself back to your most powerful party member, complete the Tristram quest too, from taking him to Fireberg, and then move forward with all the various tools now at your disposal.
I know it's already been answered in chat, but is this the best of three? It is. However, I would like to point out game 2, regardless of outcome, is going to be directly after this one. Game 3, if required, will not be until Sunday the 8th. So just stick around after this one and we'll see another, you know, what's turning out to be a great race.
Yeah, the runners willing to give us the ultimate showdown and perfect finals is sort of set up where we get to see at the very least the two games, which will sort of let us know what's going to happen. We'll either have a winner, or we'll get to wait a week in suspense while these runners probably practice the heck out of this to try to take on that last one. And we do see Hataks remembering this chest, going to be rewarded with that Aegis Shield, going to be happy about getting that. Although maybe not a progressive item, certainly, as you said, something you want to have.
I will say, as happy as Hataks can look, I guess. Always stoic. Does decide to dive that blue tile. I mean, it's the right call. You don't know there's bombs here, but unfortunately won't be technically rewarded, but we'll be able to clear it very quickly since, you know, he's leveled up quite a bit at this point.
Yeah, these enemies not going to present much of trouble. Maybe clearing out these blue battle tiles before he does, as you mentioned earlier, sort of returning to the Foresta area to drop off Tristram, get his quest item, and sort of see what else is available to him. It could present him, you know, with something else to links back there. A multi-key would give him another check. You know, the elixir would be something that would, you know, push him to maybe doing something else. So certainly things worth looking for. We are getting fairly close to go mode. You know, they've got the cap now, one of those items that's you want to get under your belt as soon as possible because it can end up anywhere.
There's the disappointment on the Hataks side, finding out that jumbo bombs were there the whole time, but does opt to use that exit spell, warping back to the Foresta region, getting the Firebird. Gonna do probably exactly as I mentioned, getting that Tristram check here. Cupid Locket, the greatest accessory, giving blind, confuse, and silence resistance. So Hataks missing Moon or Apollo helmet. I see he's got Gaia from, oh, that was in Bone Dungeon. So they're pretty geared up.
Yeah, Cupid Locket, probably the one thing you're looking for most, because status ailments with the script shuffle are just the, you know, the run killers a lot of times, even on the Dark King. So having as many resistances to those on your main character as possible is always what you're looking to get if you can. And certainly when the seed just gives them out, you're happy to take them.
Yeah, Confuse arguably being the most detrimental status on either Benjamin or a partner. We've seen many times where a partner casts white on their own party and kind of just insta-wipe. So at least on Benjamin, you don't have to worry about that now.
Right, not an option for Benjamin, although Ruben can still, you know, turn the tides on the party himself if there's some confusion in the table. Hataks heading into Wintry Cave, going to take on the Squid, another mini boss. As well as we saw, you know, at least one shard check, and there will probably be a couple more shards in here. It's usually a fairly decent location and not very difficult.
While it is an easy check, you do have to kind of keep in the back of your mind that 6 mini bosses is on the table for Tristram 4, who does get Flare in the randomizer, and then is also the fastest partner in the game. So if it kind of comes naturally, Tristram 4 would probably be the choice of most runners in this particular scene.
Certainly, the 6 mini bosses, though, presenting a potential obstacle. I believe there are only 7, I think, so clearing out all but one, and a lot of times there are 2 that you try to avoid. Although Tristram does present an interesting opportunity. We've already seen where Mount Gale is. We know where Dullahan is. We do have a leveled up Tristram. You know, we don't have a lot of damage for Benjamin, unfortunately, but Tristram's ninja stars will paralyze Dullahan, so sort of rendering him inept in that fight and allowing him to be defeated much easier than with any other sort of companion.
Yeah, we have seen, not necessarily in the tournament, but casually, we've seen plenty of races where Tristram can beat, well, having Tristram in your party means you can beat Dullahan as low as level 7 with Tristram. It takes a long time, but being able to permanently stun lock Dullahan kind of makes him viable anytime you have Tristram. So kind of free, quote unquote free here. If they decide to go that route, they'd only have to skip Gidra, which is the other of the 2 that you don't want to fight. So, I mean, we'll see what they do. I'd love to see this kind of decision making that they got to make up their minds for.
Definitely. To respond to the question in chat, yes, this is match 1 of a best of 3. Game 2 will be immediately following this one, well, with a short break. And then game 3 will be next Sunday, I believe it was.
Yep. If it's needed, will be the 8th. Farfelu was hot on the heels of Hataks here in Wintry Cave, getting that Phoebe check, getting that Squid check, which was just the mask, which they both already beaten Medusa. I guess would allow them to see enemies if they decide to do Volcano Summit finally, but essentially a useless item. The Hataks deciding to go down to Lava Dome. I'd be very curious to see if he decides to fight Hydra or if he's just doing some shard hunting here.
I mean, he's heading to the switch room, so it looks like maybe this is a Hydra player, at least prepping for Hydra right now. You know, he did get that elixir, which I believe is on the table, and probably, oh yeah, from the squid right there. Now we see farfelu having that, but maybe wanting to set this up while he's in the vicinity. You know, he cleared out mine. There's only so many other checks over in this Firebird region, and I know a lot of the runners like to be thorough before they leave if they're never going to need to come back or not need to come back for a long time, and maybe that's what's on his mind right now.
Yeah, that's very true. Lava Dome has one of the highest density of shards, or like brown box checks in the game. So kind of going through at least for shards is usually not required, but does kind of make shard hunting a lot easier. So doing this now and then hoping to never come back to dual head could be, you know, it's a viable strategy as long as dual head's one singular key item check doesn't, you know, isn't necessary.
Another point to be considered is he does know, well, almost certainly, they both recognize that Ice Pyramid is locked behind Wakewater, and Ice Pyramid is the second most dense shard location in the game. So maybe wanting to make sure he doesn't, you know, end up very short on shards towards the end of the seed if Wakewater ends up buried in the seed.
That's a very good point. It's one of those things you don't really realize as you're playing each and every seed. If you have Ice Pyramid available and you do it, you just have a bunch of shards by default. So not having that available, if they recognize that, this could be the reason he's diving Lava Dome to make sure he doesn't come up short. But we do see by our tracker keeping note of their shard counts. They're both at 16 right now. So not really hurting on either side. We still need 8, but that's not that hard to get in most cases.
8 is certainly doable. They do still have the tree available to them in the starting area. The tree, you know, one of those other excellent locations for shards. You know, we don't like to go all the way to the boss, but there are a number of boxes along the way that are not terrible to get to. And, you know, if you're looking to finish up your shard count at the end of a seed, we have seen, you know, many times the runners head to tree. It is, you know, quick enough. Certainly better than having to check multiple locations to get your shards.
As we see Hataks finish his dive here, maybe shutting us up immediately and going to fight Hydra. We'll find out in here in just a minute. farfelu completing that Kaylee's mom quest with the elixir and then checking on her in Windia, rewarded with it was what, Libra Crust, unlocking one more check in the Libra Temple. So a lot of fetch questing for more fetch quest items. We'll see if it pays off in the end here. And Hataks does dive Hydra here, shutting us off. We don't know what we're talking about. Hopefully Hydra is a little easy on the seed.
Yeah, Hydra has proven himself to be a very challenging opponent for a number of runners over the course of this tournament. I believe our very first race had perhaps the meanest Hydra we've seen all tournament, in fact, for this. So, you know, definitely a choice. Maybe leading into the meme a little, expecting the dragon to have something important. But as we see on farfelu's side, that Libra Crest rewarding him with mega grenades. So that is a required item for go mode. You know, hopefully for Hataks here, you know, Hydra has something else required, perhaps the Thunder Rock. You know, that would be fantastic, or something leading to it.
Yeah, as an unbiased viewer here, we're hoping that Hataks, like you said, is going to get something required from this fight so that we these runners kind of stay tied, essentially. But having mega grenades is gonna give farfelu access to quite a few checks that Hataks can't do. And I forgot my entire train of thought, so I'm just gonna stop talking.
The trolliest enemy standing on the left side where you enter Lava Dome. The staircase, however, visually is too wide, so at first glance you think you could step around him, but unfortunately farfelu finding out, you know, right there, it does just send you back to the overworld. Never fun, kind of a rude enemy position, especially for a dungeon a lot of times you have to go in and out of.
Yeah, thanks for saving me on that one, Potato. We do see farfelu. Now he's got those mega grenades, can check these items in Lava Dome. Gets Meteor, which is the first actual real damage we've seen on Benjamin's side. Now fighting Hydra might be on farfelu's mind, considering it's the best spell for Hydra.
Certainly, you know, he's got the setup to go ahead and full clear the Lava Dome, whereas Hataks make the decision to come in and get shards and just take on the Hydra. So these two chests that Hataks is gonna, or that farfelu is gonna have in addition, could be very interesting.
Second key item being, oh, there's the Wakewater. Hataks could be in for something rude here if if Wake Water is required, because we've got to make the decision to go through with the rest of Kaylee's quest line and then re-dive Lava Dome with those Mega Grenades. So that's some tough decisions to make. We'll see what Hydra gives here, though.
Certainly, it could, you know, be that Hataks isn't left with a lot else to do after this if it doesn't give him something that leads elsewhere. So that could maybe be a saving grace, sort of, and push him towards doing that elixir quest. But yeah, we'll certainly see. Farfelu going back to the beginning, going to turn him Wake Water, not going to take on Hydra, not going to dive deeper for shards.
Hydra only gating Excalibur, so Farfelu making the right call unknown to him, exiting out of Lava Dome instead of full clearing that. Again, we already had Night Sword, so Excalibur doesn't really give us anything except for more damage if we use it as a weapon. So kind of a bummer. We saw Hataks shake his head. He's not happy about it. And we will see a Duelahan dive, maybe. He's probably going just for the key item, but will give us one step closer to that Tristram quest if they want to go that way. And Moonhelm and Apollo Helm, one tile apart on Farflu's side. Spencer and Venus Key giving both of them. Both of them are almost exactly the same in terms of what it gives you. They both give only fire resistance. Apollo giving 6 more defense, so technically better. But now we see Farfelu completely geared up, all the resistance is possible. That's great to see. I love being fully geared up at the end of the game and could save them.
Yeah, especially since you like to not have to grind, you know, additional levels. If you know you're on the road to go mode, you know, where it's all about going fast. So having to stop to sort of shore up levels, which is something you often do if you're missing any of those items. I'm sure the runners will be happy about that. I'm not sure if we've seen the life spell yet for either runner. That's the only other thing I can see really looking at the tracker and thinking about, other than, you know, a damaging spell perhaps other than Meteor. But, you know, you'll take what you get as far as that goes.
Yeah, we're still looking for Thunder Rock and Mobius in terms of go mode. The rest of the shards, and like you said, Flare would be huge. Flare is the best spell against Dark King. Meteor resisted by Dark King will only do like 800 or 900 damage. And then Life, again, not required, but super, super helpful in a lot of situations. And there is a white spell, but it's Cure. So kind of a bummer to see a nice white spell pop up like that, and it's not really useful.
Right, Cure on Benjamin, not going to be seen too terribly often. Sometimes it does come in handy, but not, you know, the life spell that you're really looking for to give Benjamin. And we do see the Venus Key leading to another key, the multi-key, and then life. So, fantastic find there.
We just got to talk about stuff for a little bit, and then it'll happen eventually.
Right, we were summoning it sort of into existence, even though these runners have already done this, and we're commentating on the past events, but we are somehow seeing the future.
We are seeing the future and past at the same time, is what I'll go with here. Farfelu picking up Arrow, which arguably better spell than Meteor in most cases, especially in terms of speed of animation. Meteor being the slowest spell in the game at nearly 3 seconds. Arrow being kind of in the middle, like 1.5. But also does a ton of damage. And a lot of enemies are weak to wind, so I would personally use Arrow a lot over Meteor if I had to be using AoE instead of, you know, Ruben's White here.
Certainly, especially on Benjamin, who has a significantly lower number of wizard spell charges than the companions do, but still a decent number of those black magic spell charges which Arrow falls into. You get, you know, more bang for your seed buck in that regard, and yeah, as you mentioned, a number of enemies do not resist or are otherwise weak to that element, and it can do a lot more damage than you're expecting in a number of situations. It is a fantastic one to have. And we see Hataks, again, not rewarded, receiving the cat claw, the weakest claw from that Dullahan fight.
I'd like to point out that Hataks did complete the Tristram quest of 6 mini-bosses. I still don't... He's grabbing Tristram. I don't remember seeing either of them do the Volcano Summit. And yeah, we're correct. He still has to do Summit. Summit was right next to him in Mount Gale there. I was hoping he would hit that before exiting, but maybe forgetting Volcano was there or just getting a little excited.
Yeah, perhaps, you know, yes, you see that quest complete for Tristram and realize that he's on the table and is, as you said, arguably better than Ruben 3. So, very interesting choices.
Hataks just realizing what he did. You saw the moment it dawned on him that Volcano was right there. Question in chat, is Excalibur the best weapon for Ben? It is very situational. We kind of touched on it earlier. Excalibur does give a +5 speed when it is equipped. So in some cases, it does make a difference. Claw gives you +5 magic. Bombs never miss, and they're also AoE. Axes have a higher crit rate, I believe, is what their gimmick is. So it's really situational. Overall, you'll see a lot of runners just hold out swords in hopes that Benjamin moves first sometimes. But Claw, generally, you'll see for that magic boost.
Yeah, if I don't have magic, I'm a sword person. The X-Scowl is a weapon I love to get. Just you know, it does do a good amount of damage when you're swinging it, and especially early, that can be a big deal to have Benjamin. You know, if you're not using spells, Benjamin usually isn't very strong. So giving him that X-Scowl, you know, lets you get through a lot of stuff, and it's just cool.
We do see Hataks hit the summit, so now he's got Tristram, level 41, fastest companion and flare on the table. We do see farfelu fighting Ice Golem, has not done drop down yet, the potato chest. Hopefully he does remember that, since he does have exit. It's hard. It's sometimes easy to forget things.
Oh yeah.
But if Hataks does make his way back to Ice Pyramid eventually, still missing that Wake Water, so he hasn't done the Kaylee quest. At least he'll be able to get through it quickly with that flare.
Certainly, it looks like, you know, he got he has Meteor perhaps, and he does have Flare on Tristram coming back for this Pazuzu. You know, could have some value, could be holding the Thunder Rock that, you know, the runners are going to need to get through. So we know that he does need to go ahead and do that elixir into Kaylee's mom chain to get those Mega Grenades, which are going to be required, but we still haven't seen the Mobius Crest or Thunder Rock, and the Thunder Rock, you know, potentially gating the Mobius Crest at this point. So certainly on the lookout for that.
Hatakside, unfortunately, doesn't have Meteor. It is behind Wake Water.
Oh, we're both Meteor and Arrow behind Wake Water somehow. Yeah. So okay,
Meteor
yeah,
was a
limited
lava
on
dome
damage.
Yeah, Meteor being a lava dome chest means he needs Mega Grenades, which was directly tied behind Wake Water. So Hataks opting for defending strategies only. We'll see if he switches it up and attacks. With Excalibur, like you said, does some damage. It's not like it's useless. But in terms of protecting your party, it's a little bit more important to do so when Tristram's going to be doling out 2,000 damage a turn. But opting to... Oh, it's Psych Shield. Never mind. But we will see farfelu also dive Pazuzu, but get absolutely bodied. Thankfully, it was early.
A Petrify coming out on Ruben, which is interesting because while farfelu has life available to him, Hataks does not. So this bird could prove, you know, very challenging for both runners at this point. Because we've already seen some particularly devastating abilities come out.
And for those who aren't familiar with vanilla Pazuzu, as I mentioned earlier, there are two normal enemies that can reflect magic. Pazuzu and the subsequent boss rush fight Zoo. The two bosses that can reflect magic during these Psych Shield, 2 turns of Psych Shield he does. So the runners, if they're familiar enough, which it looks like they both are, they know that when Psych Shield comes out, they've got to use physical attacks or use those turns to heal or seed. Because if they use magic, they're both just going to wipe, essentially.
Yeah, I've been known to forget, you know, if the fight goes on a very long time, what cycle it's in, and just blast myself, unfortunately, and that's never something you want to do to get through this fight. You know, he's mean enough without you doing more damage to yourself than necessary.
And the thing you mentioned really early on this race about turn order comes into play. Like, this is maybe the most important fight in terms of turn order. Because if Benjamin with that Excalibur happens to outspeed, because the +5 speed doesn't always proc, it's super weird how it works and very confusing. But if that makes him outspeed and all of a sudden you're going before Pazuzu, maybe you're casting a spell into a Psych Shield. Thankfully, Hataks doesn't really have a spell, so that's not going to be an issue this run. But things like that are definitely things you have to look out for.
Right, you never want to accidentally expect it, and then, you know, yeah, you have that sword equipped and outspeed, or just the speed variance is enough to catch you off guard. It's definitely one of the interesting aspects of the random, sort of managing turn order, and how you have to react to that when you're triaging or dealing damage to the enemies.
I don't think we mentioned it, but farfelu did grab the white spell for Benjamin, and that was in the drop down in Ice Pyramid, so at least has some damage. Not the best we want to see, but definitely better for Meteor on most fights.
Well, that's 3 damaging spells all locked behind that elixir into Wake Water Chain, which Hataks is yet to do. So definitely, you know, it's a good thing he has this leveled up Tristram, really, to have Flare on the table, because otherwise he doesn't have access to a lot of the damage that we do see on farfelu's side. And speaking of farfelu, we do also see our tracker Wildham keeping track behind the scenes of the coins and the shard counts. He's lit up the sky coin for farfelu. He's gotten all 24 of his shards. So just now looking for those go mode items. Won't have to stop in any sort of out of the way locations to look for shards.
Yeah, at this point, farfelu in a mode where you're looking for key items and you don't care about anything else does save some time in terms of like not having to peek brown chests and the like of that. But I also like to point out here, farfelu not only has, you know, white meteor, but also has arrow, which, you know, common sense, birds are weak to wind, right? So vanilla, you're pretty much using flare and arrow. So you're just pumping out the damage here against Pazuzu. I would assume catching up to Hataks here very shortly, even though Hataks started the fight earlier.
Certainly, you know, not having to seed as often, you could switch just to use those arrows instead of, you know, having to reseed for those wizard spells. Definitely excellent. And as you said, yeah, birds weak to wind, so arrow doing a good amount of damage.
We see a late Tristram death here on Hataks side. Hopefully, please, no.
Oh no, that is rude.
That's a long wipe on Hataks side.
The jerk bird living up to his name.
Go do the elixir chain. Oh, farfelu with a wipe too?
Wow, so phase 4 or phase 3, excuse me, Pazuzu coming out strong. Wanted to make sure, you know, he heard us talking about Hydra earlier, and he wanted to assert his dominance. He is the jerk bird. You know, he is, you know, later than the Hydra in the vanilla progression, so certainly should be more challenging, and proving it today.
Yeah, not getting the Jerkbird nickname through the randomizer, but certainly solidifying it here. Holy cow. Hataks sticking with it. farfelu opting to just leave. He doesn't want to waste time like that. He's going to go do Dullahan, which I assume will also give him that Tristram quest. So then we'll get to see another decision on whether or not we're grabbing Tristram. He still does need to do Volcano, so... sorry. Yeah, Volcano. He has to do the Summit, so he still will have Tristram 34 at the moment. But again, it's a nice quick quest to do, so he can have Tristram 41 as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he decides to make that detour to go ahead and get Tristram. Maybe then that'll be the deciding factor to go back to the bird and give it a go. You know, at this point, the bird very likely to have something required. We've seen what Dullahan has. You know, we've seen a number of the things that farfelu hasn't done on Hataks' side and vice versa. So, you know, the bird likely to have something important for these runners. So, you know, if Hataks manages to get through after that rude first attempt, you know, this could be a swinging point of the game.
Question in chat, is the rando based off of 1.0 or 1.1? I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Ham, but I believe rando is based off of 1.0. However, a lot of the bugs are fixed. They did, Ham did keep in the duplication trick you can do because it does take time and it's kind of like a showcase of skill in a way. But a lot of the other things, like I believe the resistance glitch that they use in vanilla and like buying zero seeds, like underflows and stuff like that is all fixed. So honestly, the state the game is in right now is just chef's kiss, man. It's so good.
We see farfelu taking unfortunate wipes Dullahan. We did not see all of those abilities come out, I think, on Hataks' side, but you know, both runners, the boss is just giving them the business. Hataks taking another wipe to the Jerkbird and, you know, gonna reassess what he has available. Maybe that will push him to do the elixir. Maybe he's forgotten that that's out there, or maybe that's what he's doing right now.
Grabbing Ruben is a play. It is a play of all time. I'm very, very interested in what he's planning here. Are we seeing a Gidra dive? I mean, we got to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, Gidra resistant to fire, I believe, so Tristram would do less damage than bringing in Ruben. You know, even though the speed would potentially be helpful. But yeah, maybe assessing his options. I feel like at this point, Hataks has got to have forgotten the elixir check. He did do the Minotaur check earlier. Maybe he's just deciding you know, I believe Foresta was all the way over in the Suncoin area. So the other option is he's just deciding, like, I don't want to go back over there until I get to Thunder Rock. So,
yeah, one thing we see from a lot of runners, especially at this skill level, is permafades. Maybe Hataks knows he's got the elixir, and he's like, I am not doing that until it's my only option. And that's something we've seen time and time again with, you know, any single check under the sun. We've seen people fade it and get lucky or get unlucky. And if Hataks is choosing to, that's just gonna be awfully unlucky.
certainly, unless, I mean, you know, Gidra, maybe you could still have the Thunder Rock or the Mobius Crest, both required. You know, we're still looking for two things, very specific things that can kind of be anywhere. So, you know, I get it. Bouncing off of checks isn't always the worst. You know, try to get whatever you can as quick as you can. And if a boss is mean and you don't think you can take it again right away on a refight because the abilities were what did it and not just some, you know, bad luck or something, then, you know, you could still end up rewarded if your opponent is spending time doing what you know, died to and not being rewarded. And Hataks has been burned on several bosses already this seed, so I'm not surprised to see him just sort of try them and then move on and say, no, that's probably a steel shield or a steel helm, etc.
Kind of the same vein, farfelu, we know it's behind dual head, so we've got the omnipotence power here, but we know farfelu is essentially wasting time here. He doesn't need shards, and dual head doesn't give us anything of importance. So again, that's just technically more time saved for Hataks in a way, because Hataks is wasting that same amount, or sorry, farfelu wasting the same time that he wasted. However, he will have, you know, meteor on Ben's side, so it'll be a quicker fight. But still, the whole cave dive does give Hataks a chance to catch up here. And like you said, if Gidra, you know, holds a Mobius or a Thunder Rock, this is a game changer for Hataks.
Right, he'll be right back in it as long as he does eventually go do that elixir check. It's always very interesting, check parity and divergence. You know, whether or not you've done a check as your opponent or how long it took you. You know, a lot of times in these seeds, the long ones at least, that drags on to a point to where it all balances out and it comes down to one or two decisions only sort of at the end, potentially. We're getting to that point now. You know, we've got a very few number of checks left on the table for both runners that we know or that we don't know what we'll have. So, you know, very interesting to see sort of what becomes of the rest of the seed.
Yeah, and this late in the seed, what I'm about to say is not as important, but there are times where certain checks take a runner away from things that we as viewers know they need to do. So like if Hataks here gets Mobius Crest, that's going to open up every Mobius check that he can do, and maybe he'll opt to do those before doing the elixir check, just pushing that Mega Grenade further and further away from his grasp. Like I said, they're not that many checks to do, so in this case, not that big a deal. But if it was just earlier in the race, one single item can move one runner way off path, and they're doing the right thing, but they don't know that it's the wrong thing.
Right, yeah, they with the limited amount of knowledge, we definitely have the benefit of, you know, being able to see two streams as well as have a tracker to assist us in, you know, telling us where everything was and how many shards both runners are at. So we definitely have this sort of overview of the seed that I'm sure the runners would love to have, but the decisions they have to make along the way very much sort of weighed by what they've seen already and what they're looking for, you know?
Tox making it through Gidra even without a spell on Benjamin that's useful. Thankfully was not mean for once. One of three bosses that, you know, was nice enough to let them die. Hopefully Hataks, please get something out of this.
Yeah, I gotta love at least seeing a decent Gidra fight. You know, Gidra not presenting the sort of challenge you would expect from an in-game boss this time, but due to the virtue of script shuffle, that's what's gonna happen. You know, we arguably saw Pazuzu be meaner than normal, and Hataks definitely rewarded. I'm not sure how he feels about that. I don't know how I would feel about that there. Good at least, but you're still presented with the problem. You can't turn that in really to do anything without Mega Grenades. So he's still, you know, stuck looking for Mega Grenades. And at this point, I'm going to say he has forgotten his elixir.
I'm now on team forgot the elixir. He just made a point in the Discord talking about the way he tracks. I think he just either switched to an auto tracker or tried it and didn't like it. So it's quite possible that if he is tracking, he just completely missed putting the elixir on his board. Would require an inventory check manually and for him to recognize that he hasn't done the elixir stuff yet. Thankfully Thunder Rock doesn't, like you said, doesn't open any checks, so it's not going to push him away from anything, but it does. Oh, he does remember. So
Okay, I think he was scanning the map maybe to figure out where Foresta was. Excellent. So we see this will be, we know that for him, this is going to lead him to his Mega Grenades, as well as a couple other things that he doesn't particularly need. Unfortunately, it's very likely he's going to full clear Ice Pyramid, which,
yeah,
you know, we know that's not where the value is. At this point, you know, we're about to see a new check on Farfelu's side with Ruben's dad, just the Charm Bracelet. So we are, you know, running out of checks even faster and faster for these runners.
Multi-key check being Flare, finally. Oh my goodness. Not even available until multi-key, which was in the Venus key checks behind. So again, behind Wakewater. Wakewater has so much value this seed. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Wakewater gating, you know, Ice Pyramid would make you think it had a lot of value all by itself, and it turns out the value is in a lot of other places within the seed. We do see farfelu making the tree play right now. This is very interesting. This is going to give him, you know, that Thunder Rock. With the Mega Grenades, he'll be able to do that. And with the Libra Crest, if Mobius is vanilla, you know, boom. That could be the seed. You know, we are, again, running out of places for things to be. Pazuzu could certainly have that Mobius Crest. But otherwise, you know, farfelu's looking pretty good right now as far as the track he is on.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Farfelu does have just Pazuzu and maybe just this open. So already knowing how hard Pazuzu is, just making this dive because you know you got to do something, right? So going to be rewarded. Then you've got to hope that Mobius is behind Spencer's place here. We'll find out. Well, we won't find out because the Hataks doesn't have grenades yet. But oh, he will have them right here. Perfect. So now he can check Spencer's place and we'll know how important this Thunder Rock is to us right now.
Oh, that's true. He was, you know, heads up play to go ahead and talk to Otto while you were in Windia rather than, you know, wait until you had the Mega Grenades because you don't want to get them on your way here and then not be able to do this while you're here. So it definitely works out. And yeah, we'll see right now. I think what this is actually going to save him
from
having to go to the back of Focus Tower for a couple things. You don't really need the multi-key it gave Flare, but with the Mobius Crest, he could get there another way. So this could be very interesting.
Yeah, that does technically, he could still technically not thaw out Aquare. That would be huge for him in terms of not having to do Ice Pyramid, or at least not feeling like you have to. So if this is Mobius, Hataks just all of a sudden taking a massive lead.
Yeah, that would be fantastic, right? Getting to fade that. Oh, wow, vanilla Mobius. So Hataks in go mode now?
He's
outside
short 3 shards. But shards are easy enough at this point. Boat could have anywhere from 0 to 4 plus, if you're lucky. He's going to do multi-key, so he'll get... Well, I hope he's doing multi-key.
He does not have the multi-key.
Sorry,
it was
to go to Windia.
Yeah, to come and do... Come
if
in
he
the
does
back
that, oh, man, that would be great for Hataks. He won't have life, because I don't see him thawing out Aquaria at this point. But if he does decide to do the backwards warp into Firebird for that multi-key check, this is going to be... a great end game for both these guys.
I hope he does that because otherwise he has no real damage spell for Benjamin, really. Like, you don't want to arrow. I've definitely, you know, run into situations, several of these runners have, where they're swinging X-Cals in the Dark King fight because Benjamin doesn't have much else to do. But we know, you know, a quick trip in Windia here would net him the best spell in the game.
Oh, no! Oh, remembering?
He heard you in the past? Fantastic. All right, yeah, gonna go ahead and get this. You know, he's got to be looking at his spell tracker, realizing I have no damaging spells. I'm also still missing life. You know, and both of those worth checking an extra box or two. So yeah, very happy to get that.
Emotion on Hatak's face is rare to see, but it is great to see. Now he's ready. He doesn't need to make any more checks. And then we see Farfelu with the T-Rock still has to turn it in, go to Spencer's place, and then go back to Windia. But these guys are nearly tied. If this boat doesn't have shards for Hataks, they're going to be almost, you know, second for second tied.
Yeah, he needs 3. 2 is my magic number for the boat. And sometimes it doesn't even have that many. So it'll be very interesting to see, is the boat going to give him enough, or is he going to have to go do something else? Which actually would be a bigger problem for Hataks at this point because he does not have that Wakewater area unlocked. So his options for getting more shards right now significantly thinner. than if he had that Wake Water unlocked. He's already done Tree. He's already done Lava Dome. Where is he going to go to get, it looks like, 2 more shards?
Very good point. I didn't even consider, yeah. Your only, in your mind, your only big shard place left is Pyramid. Oh, please be one more. There's a middle section he hasn't checked yet.
There's 2 more shards he needs. There are 2 boxes we can't see on the walk down. That's 1.
Looks like we are leaving boat. Could be fine. If he only needs, he only needs 1. There's 1 in, no, he got the 1 in Volcano. Farfelu did not. We need to see a correct gamble on a shard location here from Hataks.
Yeah, I don't even know which locations. There's so many little locations with 1 or 2 that, a runner may or may not have checked. He's going to head back into Lava Dome. He didn't have the Mega Grenades before, so he never went right down here out of the entrance. He never went into the room with the second Mega Grenade check, which has a box that could be a shard as well. So, potentially, gonna net what he needs right here. I don't remember if it had a shard up here or not.
Yeah, outside of that fight, this is, I guess, probably the quickest couple of checks you can make. Unfortunately, no shards there, no shards on this ledge. I don't remember the shards from Farfelu's side because I don't think he even needed shards when he went to Lava Dome. So let's cross our fingers for Hataks here as Farfelu makes his way back to Windy, I imagine, to just go try to beat the game.
Yeah, it looks like Hataks coming back to Lava Dome. I don't think he took the alternate path maybe towards the end, so potentially a lot of shards there available to him. We do see Atelier in chat pointing out Sealed Cave. Definitely an option, right? Especially with the crest. If he hasn't checked that, that's 4 boxes on the table.
I do believe Hataks did the warp. There was 1 on the left chest of the warp side of Sealed Cave. So not an option for Hataks. Unless I'm remembering, it could have been Farfelu, but I'm pretty sure it was Hataks. He does have the 5 chests, like you mentioned, the alternate path here that was blocked by an enemy. So let's just, again, cross our fingers for Hataks. They're going to be just neck and neck if this is a shard here.
Yeah, already on the boat for Farfelu's and all the shards he needs. So Hataks just needs just 1 more. Yeah, there's 5 down here. Hopefully, fingers crossed for us and Hataks, I think. Get to see a close race. You always dislike getting burned by these dense shard locations sort of not delivering as promised.
Oh, no way. No.
Oh, we saw the look on his face as well, seeing the 4 stack be empty. Where does he go now?
Yeah, making the call to go back to Windy. I didn't spend Foresta didn't spend a ton of time here. Gonna do some treehouse teleporting.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta just, oh my god.
Oh my goodness, 2 right there. That's awful. Awful and fantastic, right? If only he had what he needed to check that earlier. It's a quick 2, that Mobius treehouse, the best one of the 3.
So as soon as Hataks makes his way back, he's gonna be shortly behind Farfelu. Does have 1 level of advantage for Benjamin. It'd be interesting to see if Farfelu decides to do a little bit of grinding if there's a nice formation by the entrance here. 17 is, he already passed it. Holy cow. Opting to do 17 on Dark King, which is perfectly fine. We've seen in this tournament, we've seen as low as 15, I think, in some runners. But every 4 levels, you get an extra spell for like that flare on Benjamin's side. Hataks 2 levels away from that extra spell. So we probably won't see an extra grind from Hataks this late in the seed. It's going to come down to essentially just Ruben versus Tristram, I think, at this point.
Yeah, an hour and 11 minutes in, I don't see either runner in sort of making the decision to grind at this point, unless this Dark King proves to be awful mean. But yeah, Tristram could be the deciding factor here. Tristram going to do a little more damage than Ruben and certainly be faster in the fight, turn order-wise, than Ruben. Benjamin's damage will be fairly even across the board between both runners with that flare spell, so...
Oh my, Dark King, 1100 damage on Benjamin. If that happens to Hataks, we know Tristram's going to go first, almost guaranteed. So we'll never have a turn where Benjamin's going to be dead every time. Hataks making the check for life makes sense, but we know it's not there, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, you gotta, I mean, if you're worried at all, and really life, like not having life can mean even a moderate Dark King just gets lucky and ruins your chance multiple times. So certainly worth keeping an eye out for, although yeah, as we saw earlier, we know gated behind that Wake Water, the gated so many things this dude.
He mentioned we won't see Cure from Benjamin, but we do see Cure from Benjamin on Farfelu's side. Kind of a heads-up play. not a great spell for Benjamin because his magic's not super high, but Ruben and Tristram don't have the capabilities to use Cure, just life. So that is the only AoE heal that they've got. So that kind of a big brain play there.
Definitely, if you're not taking that heavy single target damage, but are taking moderate, multi-target damage, it's definitely more efficient probably to throw out the Cure for Benjamin and try to, weave in maybe a double life turn or something, which certainly eats through your resources as well. It allows you to keep pushing the damage, which we know farfelu likes to do. You're burning through these Dark Kings in record time throughout the tournament, really.
And there we see the difference. Tristram doing 2035, Ruben doing, what was it, 1400, 1450? So we've got an extra 600 damage on Hataks side. That could be what it takes to catch up to farfelu here, barring just some disastrous Dark King attacks.
Right, we still have 2 phases left to see some abilities from. We know Dark King likes to save some surprises for last very frequently. And the runners don't have, perfect status immunity on their companions. So there can still be a number of things that come out to present problems.
Yeah, if this phase 3 or 4 Dark King has an instant death attack, Hataks instantly just gains an advantage with Tristram now finally having the correct death resistance, while Ruben does not have that. And we did see like 800 damage regular non-crit from Dark King, I think. So if that catches farfelu off guard here with Ruben, and doesn't get a life off, that could also mean the race. There's just so much happening right now. It's exciting.
Definitely a lot of differences as far as what the runners have available. That life spell definitely being a big potential deciding factor. Tristram versus Ruben and the damage capabilities of both. This fight still has a lot to go, even though, we're moving quickly.
farfelu queuing up that early life, anticipating Benjamin getting wiped there, but there's the perfect example of Ruben's just not fast, definitely not as fast as Tristram, allowing Dark King to kill Benjamin and then get lifed in the same turn, so not even wasting time in terms of getting spells off. So in that case, being slow was a good thing.
Yeah,
I like
those sorts of aspects, very interesting, right? Turn order, not always you going first is what you want in this situation, depending on what your toolkit is. And yeah, farfelu sort of showing off how that can work to your advantage and save you a turn.
Do have Hataks push into phase 3 a little quicker than farfelu with that extra Tristram damage, but farfelu hitting phase 4 first. If we don't see anything too bonkers here, we might see farfelu clear in just a second.
Yeah, phase 4 notably only less than 10,000 HP generally across the board, so only a couple spell casts usually needed to finish out the fight once you get to this point.
And farfelu opting for perma heal on Benjamin, which just he wants to be safe. He knows this is do or die for him.
Hataks pushed into phase 4, but his Tristram goes down, so he just has to push with his Benjamin, and that is a spooky proposition at this point without life.
Yeah, there is a wipe on phase 4 on Hataks side. Very unfortunate, and that is exactly why life is a spell runners will oftentimes go out of their way for if it's not on, in their inventory already.
That was so close. Yeah, if Hataks had life, or if Dark King had just decided not to kill Tristram there, we do see farfelu take down the Dark King 116-21. What a close finish. If not for some RNG there, we probably would have seen a finish within seconds of each other. Fantastic showing from both runners this seed, throwing them a lot of challenges and interesting decisions along the way. Companions, some mean bosses, some interesting routing, and you love to see all of those things.
Yeah, this was like everything you could ask for in a race for a grand finals. Like I said, differences in routing, differences in partners. It just, like I said, this could have been within seconds, and that would have been just the greatest race to see. Unfortunately, just getting unlucky on the Hataks side. But we did see a great comeback on his side. That Tristram damage did make quite a difference overall. Was within a couple spell casts near the end before that wipe.
Yeah, neck and neck. We saw the advantage of Tristram there, pushing through the phases markedly faster than farfelu's Ruben was able to do. I've learned firsthand Ruben is a little underwhelming in these seeds. Unfortunately, he just does not have a big magic stat, and white not the most damaging spell. So you combine those two things together, and you're looking at mid damage compared to something like this, with Flare coming out of Tristram or Phoebe doing anything. So
Did just get notice that game 2 will be starting in roughly 12 minutes. We will see Hataks finish this fight off here shortly, and we will take a short break and be back for game 2 immediately. I don't know if it could be any better than this, if I'm being honest.
Right. I mean, it just as close would be what I want to see, you know, along the way. I love that as somebody in chat pointed out while the run was running, fantastic to see, even though a number of divergent choices along the way. Both runners facing Pazuzu at the same time and both getting bodied on stream by the jerk bird sort of simultaneously. You know, fantastic stuff to see. I'd love to see another showdown that's just as close. With some interesting choices, you know, it'll be interesting. The companions, what's available, and where things are. You know, stay tuned. We'll be there in a little bit.
Yeah, give me the same race, but give Hataks to win. So we got to do a game 3. That's my ideal scenario here.
Right, everybody loves, you know, going to game 3, letting these runners showcase as much of their abilities and you know, the joy of playing this randomizer as they can. We love to see it. The number of things you get to see come up, the situations, the sprite work on Dark King, you know, just so many reasons to want to see more Mystic Quest.
Now that you mentioned it, do we see 2 vanilla Benjamin sprites this run?
Oh, interesting.
Notice,
yeah, it looks like both runners deciding to go with vanilla Benjamin this time. Perhaps an update, you know, made their preferences change, or maybe they just wanted to sport it old school. You know, both runners, I think, have some vanilla experience, so maybe wanting to do a little shout out to that.
According to chat, farfelu with Samus. I don't know how I missed that. It was just so unusual seeing Benjamin. I just realized because most runners in the tournament opted for the rando sprite, so Benjamin almost seems out of place in a way.
Yeah, right. You're usually looking for those sort of silly sprites that the community has put together. Fantastic to see so many options for Benjamin. But yeah, a lot of times people run those because you're just adding the sprites makes it a little fun and different.
There's our finish for Hataks, 119.55-ish. 3 minutes difference, really, even with a wipe. That great race by both these runners. Holy cow. Like, I can't understate how actually entertaining in the world of Mystic Quest Randomizer that was. You will arguably not see a more exciting, skillful race. You can see more entertaining ones a la Potatoes drop-down chest, but in terms of just a great race to see, this is about as good as it gets.
Yeah, you love to see just the skill expression, the close matches, the mean bosses, just sort of everything you look for in Mystic Quest. You know, you want the bosses to show up, not and be unbeatable, but definitely to show up and give the runners, you know, a what for, and sort of, you know, put them on the back foot potentially, or at least present a challenge that we get to experience as viewers and commentators going forward.
Yep, and now we just got to deal with Hataks has to deal with the fact he knows he's down 1. Is that going to affect his decision making? Is he going to make some more bold plays that he wouldn't otherwise make to try to make up for that? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. We'll see in about 7 minutes at this point. Let's go ahead and take our break. We will see all of you shortly.
Yeah, stay tuned. We will be back shortly for more Mystic Quest. Enjoy the break. More to come.